Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Goodcast Show. So today's guest is all about mental health and how you can be the best version of yourself. She uses mind-body tools to help people manage stress, anxiety, and chronic pain. Previously, she worked at Taylor's University as the Mindfulness Program Specialist, where her programs taught emotional intelligence skills to over 15,000 students and staff. She's a certified embodiment coach, a mindfulness trainer, and brain spotting therapy practitioner. I want to get to know what that means. She studied in the UK, Australia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Malaysia. Wow. And she condenses neuroscience and psychology into easy tools to help people live happier, more fulfilling lives. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, it's my honor to host Petrina Eger. How are you?
Great.
Yes,
nice to be here with you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I know this has been a long time in the pipeline. And also a big shout out to Maury for actually connecting us.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun when he came on, and his friends as well. We had a lot of fun. Those videos did very well. So hope the same with you. Now, you come from the corporate background, right? You had a very extensive corporate life before you decided to move into becoming a coach.
A little bit, but I've always more been on the education side.
Yeah. What made you make the switch?
So I was in sustainability first.
Okay.
And so I did a lot of environmental education.
Yep.
And even when I was with the corporate, I would still love to go into, we were doing small businesses and educating people about energy efficiency. And then when I learned more about my mind and my emotions and my body, I was just like, oh, this is the key.
Okay.
So I was trying to get people to change behaviors in my corporate role. And if you don't understand emotions and psychology, it's very hard to get people to do anything different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the things that I hear a lot on your website, on your social media and all that is this term negative bias. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does negative bias mean?
So humans have evolved to stay alive.
Okay.
But there's part of our brain that's very primitive that wants to make sure that you don't die.
Fair enough.
And so because of that, we're always kind of negative. So if you imagine like way far back in history, there's two tribes of people and one is like, oh, there's some amazing durian, like, let's go.
Okay.
And the other people are like, oh, there's a tiger somewhere and we need to be careful.
Okay.
Which people are going to survive? The durian lovers or the cautious tiger people?
The cautious tiger people.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are all descendants.
I think that was their name too.
Probably.
Probably the cautious tiger people. Archaeologists digging and there we go, another cautious tiger lover.
Well, we probably didn't die though as quickly as the durian lovers.
Exactly.
So sorry. But
But I appreciate localizing that example though. Thank you so much. So go on. Sorry.
So we evolved from, this sense of fear and danger. And that carries with us today, even though we don't have tigers. But we're always still, our brain is like, whoa, like freaking out about like an email or a message or something we see on social media.
Yeah.
Our brain didn't evolve to make us happy.
That's sad to hear.
I know. Yeah. But the cool thing is that now we know this.
Okay.
And so neuroscientists are like, hey, you can change your brain. You can literally change it. Like they can see it in brain scans.
Okay.
And we can make ourselves happier.
So how do we go about that? How do we overcome our negative biasness?
Yeah. So one of the practices that I like is called letting in the good.
Letting in the good. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like noticing when something good happens and actually like taking a pause and being there to feel that good emotion. Because so often, you have like a performance review and your boss says all these things and there's one negative thing. Which one do you go home and tell your wife about?
Negative.
Yeah. Oh, can you believe they said this? Oh, but what about all the other good things?
Okay.
So it's to start noticing those good things and really like appreciating them, letting them sink in.
So do we disregard the negative thing or do we sort of constructively look at it?
Yeah, there's both.
Okay.
But we're just trying to be more balanced.
Okay.
Yes, that negative thing sucks and I disagree and I'm feeling really upset about it.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
Also, wow, 20 good things were said about me.
Okay.
Wow. And when I think about that, I can feel really proud and excited and, confident.
Okay.
So both.
All right. So focus more on the good then. Don't and forget the tigers. Right?
Well, they're there though.
They're there.
We have to be careful.
I can't imagine these tiger-loving people doing well in zoos. I think that would be difficult for them to walk through. There's actually a tiger there. Now, one thing about you that's unique compared to most of the self-help people in this industry, coaches, which I have, whom I'm familiar with, they generally attack this topic from the emotional side of things. But your videos seem to focus a lot on the physical aspect. You talk about what movements you can do to better your mood and all that. So, like, what are these improvements that you can do to yourself in terms from the physical aspect that can improve your general mental well-being?
Yeah, they're really connected.
Okay.
Whenever you have a thought, it shows up in your body. And emotions also, they're in our body.
Okay.
And so when we are more in touch with our body, it helps us be able to have more power.
Okay.
If you're like, feeling really tense and depressed and you're just like, I'm going to think positive today, like, it's not going to happen because your body is like this.
Okay.
So this is one reason that I work so much with the body.
Okay.
And so we can intentionally change our body to help us change our emotions and change our mindset.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So these in your videos, you also do a lot of demonstrations of some of the movements that you can do. And I've watched them and I say, okay, how did you learn these movements? How did you identify that these specific movements help these specific conditions or make you feel a certain way?
Some are from my training programs.
Okay.
So like tools that I've received from others.
Okay.
And some of it's just intuitive.
Okay.
Things that make me feel good. We sit at computers a lot, so our chests get kind of tight, and our heads,
and all that.
our heads come forward. So what feels good is to open or to move our arms, and that can help us to like change our mood. Because if you change your body, your mood is going to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why, and also your mind, right? Sometimes people they get stuck at a work project and they go for a walk, and then suddenly they're like, oh, new ideas will come.
Now, I guess it comes from that old saying, a healthy body makes a healthy mind. Right. Now, one thing also you talk about how we need rest. You champion that. You say we need rest. And I agree. I mean, we need rest. We need breaks to recover and all that. Right. Even one example is I've heard is Cristiano Ronaldo, the famous footballer. He sleeps 5 times a day to ensure that his body recovers, which is amazing. I wish my mother could know this. So, not nag me when I'm taking my naps. But today, one of the problems is with gadgets. Resting time seems to be the trend. Right. And I always believe in the saying, an idle mind is the devil's playground. So, like, isn't it better for people to live more active lifestyles as opposed to sedentary ones? Because that would help you better your mental well-being.
Yes, definitely. And there's lots of research that shows this.
Okay.
Like being sedentary is not good for our mental health. It's also not good for our physical health, higher risk of cancer and diabetes and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And for me, there's benefits of hard exercise and going to the gym, but even just moving, like just standing up every half hour or just doing some little bit of stretching, all of that can help with our mental health.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get into your career now. You are a full-time coach and you work with a lot of people, right? A lot of clients of yours and come about. In this space of mental health, based on your experience, what do you hear commonly? I mean, what are the common problems that people come to you with?
It's very broad. I've had things like people who feel like their fear is kind of controlling them, not being able to step out of fear. Some of that might come from childhood things that have happened, like near-death experiences where that just kind of, that survival, it just gets stuck in the nervous system. So then it can be scary to do things like drive as an adult.
Wow.
Yeah, because...
fear of driving. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Difficulty with family situations. Your mom says that stuff that just always triggers you at the family dinners. And what do you do about that?
Believe me, I know that.
Yes.
I'm sometimes amazed at the skill level she has, that what she can just pick that one thing and it just sets me off. And after I'm like, why are you getting so triggered?
But working through that with the coach is really helpful.
Okay.
Right? Because then we broke it down with this client. We broke it down like what happens and how does she feel in her body before she snaps at her mom.
Okay.
And what she could do. So we came up with all kinds of tools and things that she can do so that she doesn't end up saying something that later she's going to go and regret.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that you talk about as well, you talk about nervous system being off balance, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious, what are the signs for somebody to identify that their nervous system is off balance, and how do you improve it?
So it comes back to that survival mode,
Yeah.
right? So when our brain is going, you're gonna die, that's what we need to recognize.
Okay.
And there's kind of 3 main things that our body does. Either we go into a fight response,
Or flight.
or freeze.
Okay.
So noticing, what does your body feel like when you're in one of those states? So if it's fight, often we become aggressive.
Yep.
We might raise our voice.
Yep.
We might get a little bit tense. Like there's that like, hey, you're wrong, like kind of thing. If it's freeze, often we kind of shut down. We might just become really fatigued and tired. Our bodies get small. So it's noticing what your body does, and then we can start to do things differently. And calming down is a part of it. So not acting when we're in those states. So we also call this a hijack. Like your brain has literally been hijacked by your survival system, and it's not going to give you any options except to fight, run away, or disappear.
Okay.
And these aren't very good options when we're having conflict with people that we care about or with our team at work. We want a better solution.
Is that practical though? I mean, is it able to be achieved? I mean, for you to sort of override your base evolution system software that's written by evolution, is that possible?
Definitely, with practice.
Okay.
So that's where the awareness is the first step. So first noticing, like when you're stressed, what do you feel in your body? How do you know you're stressed? So lots of people get tension in their shoulders, their jaw, their stomach. And then taking a deep breath is one of the easiest ways to
definitely.
just, help your system calm back down before you do anything.
So what is the best option? Say if you are in a position where you are triggered, say, let's talk about a fight response, a scenario that creates a fight response. What would be the better option in your book?
If possible, take a deep breath.
Okay.
Like that's always really good. I like the psychological sigh. So it's where you breathe in 2 times and then slowly exhale. So it's like.
Okay.
Because what that does is it like really, really fills you up with air, and then slowly exhaling kind of calms down the system.
Okay.
Also, I think taking a break can be really good and just be like, hey, I need a break.
We will come back to this later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, let me take a walk and come back, because we know, like, we don't want to say something we're going to regret.
Yeah.
And I think other people also understand that. If we can just, maybe you need a break. If it's a really strong system response, like.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now you talk about emotional patterns, and I love this because this is something that I think connects to a lot of different social issues that we are facing, right? Like divorce, or before you, I was talking to someone and we were talking about addiction, substance abuse. So it's connected to all of that, these emotional patterns, these habits that we create. Now, what are the most effective and perhaps quickest ways to break these patterns?
Yeah, it all starts with awareness, right? So noticing that there is a pattern and really being like curious about how the pattern feels. There's something in addiction therapy called surf the urge. And in this crazy experiment that they did where they took smokers and they didn't let them smoke for a really long time. And then when they did the research, they had them go step by step. So put the cigarette pack on the table and notice how you feel.
Okay.
Open it. And then notice how, like, so slow, painstakingly slow, take it out. It's like, smell it. Because what they're doing is helping people notice what happens in your body that's causing that behavior.
Okay.
So that then we can start to change the behavior because we know what's happening. Otherwise, sometimes we end up scrolling on our phone for an hour and we're like, how did I end up on my phone? Like we don't realize what's causing these behavior patterns.
Okay.
So I think breaking it down, slowing it down. Yeah, surf the urge. It's good for overeating and good for any addictive behavior. Social media, scrolling. Like, how do I feel before I end up on my phone? Like, what is it that's making me have that behavior?
And then you go to that root cause. Why is that? And then deal with that.
Yeah, then you could be able to change it.
Okay.
Because sometimes too, these behaviors, they don't make us feel good.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Like I'm sometimes YouTube binge and I'm like, actually, that doesn't make me feel better.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 to 10 minutes is okay.
Yeah.
But if I get to half an hour, I'm just like zombied out and brain fogged and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when does a person actually create these emotional patterns? What level of their development? Is it young kids? Is it adolescents? Is it teenager? When does these emotional patterns form?
A lot of it starts very young.
Okay.
And then we can also have adaptive behaviors.
Okay.
Especially in childhood.
Okay. And what are the sources of these emotional patterns? What makes us want to create these destructive emotional patterns?
It's a coping mechanism.
Okay.
So at some point, we thought that was a good thing to do. So for example, something I've just realized about myself is I struggle to say no.
Okay.
And I realized, going back, there was a time when I was 10 years old, I was at a birthday party with a bunch of girls, and I told them to stop doing something, and they teased me and teased me and teased me. So in my brain, it became like it is dangerous to tell people to stop doing something that bothers you.
Okay.
Because I was so humiliated. And so I was freezing, right? The freeze response, like, oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is an adaptive pattern that at some point that served us well.
Okay.
But as an adult, we don't need those same patterns to protect us.
Yeah.
So I think the kindness is a really big part of all of this behavior change, is like being kind to ourselves and knowing that there's a reason that we're doing that. At some point, that was the best choice we had. 10 years old, we don't really, have all of our logical skills, or some of this stuff even younger, from like infancy. So to be kind to that.
No, I'm always curious about this topic of mental health, and I want to get your perspective on this. These issues have been there forever, right? These issues have, because the human condition has not changed that much in the past, say 50, 60, 100 years, right? Of course, forget about evolution and all that, but why is it now there is so much of focus on coaching how to live your life, about addressing the issues, understanding your past, understanding habits, like what you talk about, serve the urge kind of thing, where you need to dissect yourself. Why is there such a heavy emphasis on this topic in today's time?
I think there's a couple of reasons. Like depression is becoming the #1 world health crisis. Anxiety levels are going up a lot. And a lot of this is coming with the younger generations. We don't see it as much with older people. And so there's something about the way that the world is changing with technology, with people becoming more isolated, that we're having more discontent. And then I think also we're in a really cool place in history where science is catching up with ancient traditions like meditation, and we're finding out that there's a lot we can do to change. We also have a very luxurious life right now. We are not out every day hunting for food and, like gathering things. No.
So that is why we have this, because it's a luxury. Could it also be that in today's world, there is a severe disconnect between human beings?
Yes.
We are sort of caught up in this whole digital age of things, and that we don't connect, right? That's one thing. Because I read a book called Click. It's on psychology. And they did a comparison in Japan, how during World War II, there were no suicides, almost none. But now, in developed Japan, suicide is a problem. So how in times of struggle, it brings humans together. And because of that bonding, our bodies do better when there's bonding. So that bonding is not there anymore, right? So do you meet clients who suffer from mental health issues because of a lack of bonding? Is that one of the things that you see?
Yeah. And I think I don't necessarily deal with people with mental health issues, but just people who want to be happier. I have people that are very lonely.
Okay.
And sometimes even like there's one client and she has physical pain because of her loneliness.
Physical pain?
Yeah. So our emotions and our thoughts can also show up in our body in illness or pain.
My goodness. Yeah. You have said that there are no negative emotions. All emotions have purpose. They are like messengers trying to tell you something. And then you go on to say that the problem is our reaction to these emotions. Now, could you define what is negative emotions?
Yeah. So for me, actually, there are no negative emotions.
Okay.
There are pleasant emotions, which are things that we like to feel. They feel good, like joy, happiness, excitement, love, connection. And then there are emotions that are not very pleasant, like hate or shame or guilt or disappointment, sadness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So and my question is, say for example, if I feel sad that someone has passed away, right? That's not a message, right? That's just me simply feeling a certain way about an incident. So like, what sort of emotions should I be listening to then? If say in that situation, I've lost someone, I'm grieving. That's not a messenger. That's just a reaction. So
for me, like if I tell you that Sue in New York died yesterday, do you have any emotion?
No.
Because Sue, you don't know Sue.
I don't know Sue.
Not important to you. But if someone passed away and you're feeling sad, to me, the message is, wow, this person was really important to me. And they had an impact on my life and they were important. And so it's important that we notice that and we notice that emotion. And especially in terms of grieving, it's really important that we grieve. If we don't, we can end up with more addictive behaviors. We can be, sometimes people are like overproductive because they're trying to get away from those feelings of loss and sadness. It can affect our sleep and eating habits.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you talked about that you help people achieve happiness, who want to be happier.
Yeah.
Why is the state of being happy so wanted today? When in my experience in life, right, I've noticed that in times when you are down, that's when you learn. That's when you really develop skills, because you have to get out of that situation. But when you're happy, nothing really good happens. Besides you being happy, being happy for a short time or whatever, but I mean, happiness doesn't lead to self-development, right? So why is it that people want to just be happy and run away from the sad and from the ugly? Why? Why do they do that?
Well, it's not very nice. I mean, nobody likes to sit and cry.
No, yeah, that's true. That's
we
true.
don't want, so a big part of our problem comes from suppressing our emotions or avoiding them because we don't want to feel that.
Yeah. But isn't it good to have strike a balance?
Yeah.
Because if I notice nowadays that the pursuit of happiness seems to be the number one pursuit people want. But in life, they should understand that there's ups and downs in this, right? And both of that is important.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do you strike a balance between these two? How do you live a life by understanding that I want to be happy, yes, but I have to accept. If you pray for rain, you have to deal with the mud. Yeah. Right? So how do I create that balance?
I think part of it is willingness. Like being like that awareness of what you just said, like life is not all happiness. That is drugs, right? This is what drug addicts do, right? Because they want the high and they try to sustain it. But life is ups and downs and we're not going to be happy all the time. But we can be content.
Okay.
So I like that better because I can be really anxious or really upset, but I can be okay with that. That I'm like, oh yeah, and this is a mood and it's going to pass.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you need to have a balance and accept that that's the nature of life.
And now, then I think having tools also, and this is what I do largely as a coach, is I give people tools to be able to work with these emotions or the behavior patterns so that we don't get stuck. Okay. Because when you get stuck in something like grief, we could get stuck there for many years. Yeah. It's not going to be fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. You in your videos, I think you shared a video of you with a sprained ankle. Was it a sprained ankle? I think, yeah. And you talked about chronic pain. What's the difference between basic physical pain versus chronic pain? What's the difference?
So 2 types of chronic pain. One is when you have an injury that lasts longer than normal.
Okay.
So for me, a sprained ankle should recover in a couple weeks, and mine was like 2 years. So then we'd call that a chronic thing. Or if pain lasts more than 6 months, generally, then they could also call that chronic pain. Like if you have a backache for more than 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
But have you seen cases where, because you've mentioned that emotions stay in the body and that can lead to pain as well, right? You talked about people having pain because you talk about your clients as well. Is this a common occurrence where people manifest their emotional troubles in chronic pain? And what sort of forms of pain do these take? I mean, where do they appear? What sort of pains are there?
Yeah, common ones are migraines. Irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
It's very common. Could be also back pain.
Okay.
Kind of anything, and especially if doctors can't find a reason why that there's pain.
Okay.
It's a pretty good sign that might be.
Okay.
There's, like if you have a lot of pain and you go on vacation and you're fine, and then you get back home and you go to work and then your pain comes back.
Okay.
This is often, not just physically caused.
Yeah, it's also emotionally caused, right?
Yeah.
And how do you address this?
It's largely back to that nervous system. If your nervous system is deregulated because of emotions or stresses, we can feel a lot more pain.
Okay.
So when there's education that goes in with it. So learning more about pain and how all pain is created in our brain, because the signals come from our body, they go into our brain and our brain's like, you're in trouble. So all pain is real.
Back to the tiger people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So we learn about that.
Yeah.
And then has your doctor told you your body is actually okay? Right? Well, then maybe the pain isn't from a structural issue, but from something else. And there is work with people that have trauma or PTSD, where they've found that there's a lot of pain in the body because of that. And when they do the healing from those traumas and work through it, the pain goes away.
Okay.
Or is greatly reduced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in my line of work, I come across a lot of Gen Zs, right? There's employment and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I think to myself, my goodness, we are in trouble. It may be a negative comment, but that's some of the issues I deal with. One of the main problems that Gen Z seem to have is that they seem to have a lot of mental problems. Not like I'm talking about mental like depression, anxiety, unable to cope with high levels of stress and all that kind of stuff. What do you think are the main causes behind why Gen Z have become like this?
I think technology is a part of it. Like
Yeah,
the
definitely.
speed of life is just going so fast.
It's too much. Yeah.
And we don't take breaks. We were talking before about taking breaks. Our breaks are Netflix or scrolling on our phone, but that actually isn't really a break. Right? You're still engaged and your nervous system is still being like in some way stimulated.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed with Gen Zs is that, and not just Gen Z, but I think some of the people I've met who maybe share some stories about their mental challenges and why they feel depressed and upset and all that. I also believe that sometimes the problem is that we outsource the responsibility of that problem to something else. Say, for example, if I like exactly what you said, I have sometimes watch Netflix. I'll be on Netflix and I'll be watching something. I'm like, okay, this is really depressing, and I don't want to affect my mood, and so I'll stop it, right? But people sometimes go on these habits. They keep watching depressing things. They keep on their phones and all that. Why can't they just stop and say, hey, this behavior is not healthy. I don't want to be part of it. Why can't they do that?
Not exactly sure. But it seems like, habits are habitual, right? So it's something that we continually do, and sometimes we're not aware of it. So we might not be aware of how we feel. And also our nervous systems get used to things. So I knew someone who was in an abusive relationship, and then she got into a very nice relationship, and she said, oh yeah, but it's so boring.
I want to be beaten.
So she created drama in the relationship, right? And I think it was unconsciously done.
Okay.
But the next time I saw her, they were on a break and all this turmoil was going on, because of what was created in that relationship. So I think that's an interesting thing for us to be aware of.
Yeah.
That sometimes, I didn't know how to relax.
Okay.
Because I grew up in a household where it was like, if you're not doing something, you are lazy. And so I was afraid to not be doing something or I'd get scolded.
Okay.
Yeah, perfectly, this happens to lots of people.
Yeah.
No fault of my mom's.
Yeah.
But now learning how to relax is important for me.
But in your experience being in Taylor's as well, it's a very big university and all that, and you deal with a lot of youth members and all. Are there any common issues that you face dealing with young people and the struggles they have?
They don't sleep.
They don't sleep.
For me, that's the worst. I'm just like, your brain doesn't function if you don't sleep.
Yeah, exactly. You need time.
And it's
you need
just, they're up so late.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on doing well and being high performers.
And one thing I think we were also talking about this before the podcast started. We were talking about my grammar. I think was a big issue about me using this term, but I'm not going to say it on this podcast because now I'm quite embarrassed to mention this sentence. But one of the things I feel that young kids nowadays, right, they receive too many gold stars for doing absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I like exactly what you said. They get participation awards, What is that? That doesn't make sense. I get rewarded for just being there. That just doesn't make sense. I come from a different time. You had to compete and you had to win. If you didn't win, you didn't get anything. That's as simple as that. Is this approach to caretaking of our youth creating a very soft generation that will eventually, and that's why we are having such a high, prevalence of mental health issues and depressed individuals? Is it our fault, the way we deal with the kids?
It could be a factor.
Okay.
I think teaching resilience is really important for kids.
Yeah.
So when allowing them safe opportunities to fail so that then they can practice what it's like to get back up and to try again. Is really good.
Yeah.
And doing it in small ways and safe ways so that they're practicing that before they, move out of the house when they're older. And then suddenly if you make a mistake, then it can be a lot bigger.
Okay.
With a lot more consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about this topic is that I find quite interesting is people don't necessarily go out there to get the help that they need for the problems. Like, it's great that you have clients coming to you and saying, look, I have this issue, I want to work at it. That's fantastic. That's the healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
But in Malaysia, especially, there still is a stigma around this topic. There still is a negative perception. If I go to a coach to help me, I'm crazy or I have mental problems, right? How do we overcome this stigma?
Yeah. So for me, coaching is like you want to get better at something.
Yeah.
Like who were we talking about earlier? Cristiano Ronaldo?
Yeah.
He has coaches because he wants to get better at what he does.
Yeah.
It's not that he's bad, but he wants to improve.
Exactly.
So this is one thing that I think about with coaching. It's like, if you want to get better at something, there's somebody that could help you do that.
Okay.
You can do it on your own, but it'll be slower and you might not reach your target or your goal, but coaching can help you to go faster.
Yeah, definitely can really help you do better.
Yeah.
Are we as a society doing enough to handle this issue about depression and anxiety?
Yeah, so on the mental health side, there is still quite a bit of stigma. And I think things we can do is to be open and share our own experiences. Taylor's, I always would share the slides with my students about the mental health support center. I think they called it the counseling center. And tell them that I have a therapist. And for me, she's like a wise, compassionate friend. I don't feel like I have issues, but sometimes like I don't know what to do, like it could be a small thing, but I'm just like, like I got really upset because this person didn't text me back.
Okay.
And so then she can help me figure out how to work through that better, how to have better communication. Yeah. So sharing our experience is good.
So if I am at a position where I want to be happier and say I want to work with you, how do I go about doing that?
You can just reach out.
Just reach out to your website?
Yep. Okay. The Instagram is probably the best place at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the process like when I come to you now and I say, look, I have issues and I'm not happy. I want to be happier. What's the process that I have to go through to reach that end point of being happy?
Yeah. So first we would have like a discovery call, we could say, where we talk about what is working for you, what's not working for you, where do you think you need to go? And so that we can see if it's a good relationship for us to work together. And then if we decide to go forward, people can do one-by-one sessions or to come in for a couple sessions in a row, which is usually better because we've set a goal. And so if we're meeting like once every 2 weeks or something, it helps to have that accountability and helps move us forward towards helping you accomplish your goal.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to get back to you. You decided to get into this because, in fact, we were talking just now when you were coming in, you said that you left the job at Taylor's because you wanted to get more deeper connected with people and all that. Is there a side effect to you? Is there by dealing with people's problems? I always wonder this when I speak to coaches.
Right.
When you're listening to all these problems every day, do you feel, is there things that you do to prepare yourself or to heal yourself?
Definitely. Preparation is important.
Yeah.
Because my client is going to come in and often not be very calm or centered.
Okay.
They come in and they're like, whoa, so that I am in a good space.
Okay.
Before I get in, I take a lot of self-care time.
Okay.
Yeah, for myself. And then, afterwards, I think also that I take care of myself. So often my clients leave feeling really happy or in a better space, which is nice. That we make friends with the emotions. Sometimes we play little games to kind of understand how emotions or thoughts work. So it doesn't always have to be heavy. And they'll feel more peaceful, at least before they go. I make sure that people are, feeling in a good space.
Yeah.
Especially if we bring up things during the session, then we kind of close the box again before they go out.
Okay. Because just before this, I was talking to someone about addiction. And she's a coach in addiction. She helps people recovery from substance abuse and all that. And even in that 1 hour conversation, I couldn't take it. I was like listening to it and I'm going, my God, this is a lot, because you're discussing some of the issues people go through. So I was thinking I was like, man, how do you deal with it? Every day, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So when you say self-care about you self-care, what sort of self-care practices do you practice that maybe people can copy and emulate?
Yeah, sleep is really important.
Okay.
I'm in bed by 10. I wake up around 7 because my body wants more sleep. Eating really well. So I take care of my diet. I exercise every day, and I take lots of breaks during the day to move my body.
Okay.
I spend time with my cat.
Yes, I noticed that you have cats. Yes.
I do journaling when I've got emotions that come up. I like to journal on them.
Okay.
And I use my coaching tools on myself like all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, like my nervous system gets deregulated, I go and fix it as much as possible.
Now, I've noticed a trend nowadays, right? A trend nowadays whereby there is a growing number of online options for mental health. You're seeing apps coming up and all that kind of thing, especially in the US and all. There's a lot of these apps coming up in Europe and all that. Is that healthy? Is that a way that you think we should go instead of the one-to-one personal coaching?
I think it's good to have options.
Okay.
So people can see what works best for them.
Okay.
Because everybody's different. So there's some apps where you can just chat with someone. You don't actually have to call or be face-to-face. And so if that's more comfortable for people, that's good. The price point is also different.
Okay.
Right? Like a group course is going to be less expensive than one-on-one, and probably an app service would be even cheaper. Yeah.
So in your practice, what sort of courses, what sort of programs do you offer?
I offer courses for chronic pain and also one for stress and anxiety. And that's one of my favorite things to do because we get everybody together in a space and there's just so much empathy that happens. You're like, oh, I thought it was just me that had that craziness.
Now you see somebody else. The kindred spirit.
And we can like normalize it and we can just talk about it and people are very open and it creates that nice connection because we were talking before about loneliness. So like that really deep and valuable kind of connection.
You know, speaking of one thing that you brought up about loneliness, you talked about this lady who has physical pain because of her loneliness, right?
Yeah.
Is loneliness caused by the fact that perhaps humans today are not willing to take the risk and commit into a relationship? Because in Malaysia, for example, we see that marriage is, people are getting married later. Most women now are opting to even not get married and stay single because, you know, they have a career, they have everything. So why do I need a man? Right? But when I look at it and when I speak to some of these, some people in my circles, I get the vibe that they may have had one horrible experience and then they use that experience and paint the rest, everybody in that same color. Is that the mistake?
Well, that doesn't seem like a good idea if it's just based on one experience. But this is very common because, again, survival. Like your body, your brain is trying to protect you. It's like, ooh, relationship, very, very painful. Don't do that again. And so that's something that we could then have some coaching around to help your body to be like, okay, actually it can be safe to be in a relationship, but how do I know if it's safe? And how do I go slowly enough? Because some people rush very quickly. And when we go fast, we fall harder. So to make that step by step. But I did also want to say that you can be in a relationship and you can still be very lonely.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can be alone and not be lonely.
How is that?
Like, you know, sometimes it's just really nice to spend an evening by yourself.
Definitely. I crave
wonderful,
that.
right?
I crave that. Yes. Because I'm also a father, so I don't have time alone. This podcast is only my time by myself.
But I'm with you.
There we go, man. Get out of the room, all of you. Let me have my own time. You know, is one thing about this entire mental health discussion and being happy and all that. Is it sort of is it an effort to reprogram our base caveman programming? Because sometimes I feel that people get unhappy or people have tough challenges in their life because they don't accept who they are. One example, in fact, recently I had a guest over. We were talking about the male-female dynamic and how, females should accept how certain characteristics to be with a man and also vice versa. Like men are the breadwinners or men are the protectors. They are the defenders of territories while women are the nurturers. Both are equally important. But I've met women in my life who want to be, all strong, and they are very difficult to be with because they are so, focused on feminism and all this, which are important discussions, but that becomes their only definition. And then when they become unhappy, they blame men. Oh, there's not enough good men there. When the real reason could be that you're just not someone nice to be with. Are we running away from the simple answers and instead trying to latch on to these more complex remedies?
I think a lot of the times it's so much easier to point fingers at other people.
Exactly.
Than to accept that, I have a friend who's been on maybe at least 50. I can't remember how many he said. 50 dates, and they kind of
50.
always go the same way.
Okay.
And I'm like, sweetie, you can no longer say that this is the women.
Yeah.
Because you're the only common denominator in these 50 experiences that went very similarly.
Okay.
So I recommended to him, like, get a coach, get a relationship coach, because she or he could help you figure out like what is going on and what maybe you're accidentally creating this behavior or this reaction in the other people that is making them say, yeah, I would love a second date. And then they ghost you.
They goes to you. Yeah, I know. Like, there's problems now.
Yeah.
Many relationships, and if we went to do that, I think we can stay here for a few hours because there's a lot of topics to discuss, especially on relationships. So I wanna get your thoughts on this. I know you talked about sleeping better, habits, and all that, to improve your mental health. How important is structure? How important are routines to ensuring healthy mental status?
Yeah, routines are really good because they take out the mental effort. Like you just get up and you do something every single day. You don't have to get up and be like, well, I don't know what I should do. Like it just makes it like, this is what happens. And our brain likes habits. It's a way
it does. It does.
So we drive the same way to work every single day. And then we're like, oh, I need to go to the other way to get to the grocery store. And we totally forget.
So in your practice, are you only open to a specific type, maybe older, like adults, or are you open to anyone to come on?
I don't work with kids.
Okay.
Yeah. Kids and teenagers, a little bit different.
Yeah.
So more adults.
We hate kids and teenagers.
No, just their brains work differently,
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Stay away, man. Deal with your own problems. So you work with adults predominantly.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I were a company, can I work with you?
Sure. Yeah, I do corporate trainings as well.
Okay, corporate trainings. And on what specific topics do you do?
Emotional intelligence, stress management, communication.
All right. Yeah. Now, just to bring this to sum up this discussion, I always do this to my guests. I always give them the last say. So that's your camera right there. That's that camera. So you have to look in the camera and tell us your closing statement on how can the young teenagers in today's world, in Malaysia, do better to better their mental health? I know you don't work with them, but come on, spend some time.
Sure. Okay. I think like number one thing would be to be kind to yourself. Because when you're hard on yourself, it makes everything so much more difficult. So to be kinder and then to get some sleep, really important, and spend good quality time with people that you feel good with. There's some friends that maybe actually we don't really feel very safe with them. They kind of criticize us in a funny way, but it's not really nice. So seeing if you can find some people where you really feel good with them and spend time off of your devices. Go for a walk, do something.
Do some
active.
Physical work.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you again, Petrina, for coming on. It's been a real treat talking to you. Now, before we go, what's the best way to actually get in touch with you on your Instagram? What's your Instagram handle again?
Petrina Eger.
Petrina Eger. So it's Petrinaeger. Am I correct? Yes. And they can get in touch with you, and then they can take it from there. So do you provide like a free consultation?
I do. Yeah.
How long is the consultation?
About an hour.
An hour. Okay. Yeah. And then from then on, that's when you create the program for them and you suggest. Okay. And can you share your prices? Like, what are your rates like?
How about they contact me?
Fair enough.
I like to work with anybody who really wants to come.
Okay.
So there's some flexibility in there as well.
Is that another way of you saying it's expensive?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But okay, Malaysians get a different rate than people outside of Malaysia.
Finally.
I have USD and MYR prices, so.
Perfect. Thank you. Finally, somebody who understands. Thanks, man. Thank you. So thank you so much for coming on. I know it's been a while. Thank you for making the trip and coming on. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me. It's
no worries, man. Very fun. And so for all of y'all who have any questions, you guys, any doubts, you guys want to connect with her, you can drop us a message, share your comments on the videos, and we will connect you with Petrina, and you guys can take the conversations from there. So till next time, always remember to share, like, and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Thank you, Petrina, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.